Don't let the sun go down on your anger. Did y'all know that came from the Bible? My friend Jim read it beautifully from the Apostle Paul's letter to the church at Ephesus. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. My favorite teachings in the Bible are ones like that tell us how to live and how to navigate relationships, because I need help. Are there any human beings who've showed up in this room this morning who need help learning how to live and navigate relationships? Okay, it's me and you, baby. No, she does. Point to your neighbor. Yeah, she does. So today, Paul does just that. He's teaching us how to live. In particular, I think in this letter, he's telling us how to go from being angry to being vulnerable to receiving the gift of becoming tender-hearted. Does anybody here this morning want to become tender-hearted? Now, I want to first note that Paul does not say, the trick is just don't be angry. He doesn't say, don't be angry. In fact, quite the opposite. Look back at the text. He says, be angry. If you're angry, be angry. A wise woman taught me many years ago that all my emotions are simply messengers. My emotions are messengers that come along to tell me something about myself and what's going on around me. So when the emotion anger wells up inside me, it's just come to tell me something about what's going on with me and what's happening around me. And she said further that if I was willing to receive the message that the emotion came to give me, the emotion will move on. It's what emotions want to do. Feelings don't want to hang around. They want to give you the message and then float off like a helium-filled balloon. She said, but here's the warning. She said, if you resist or deny the message, Hendree, the emotion will hang around inside your body like a lump in your throat. That's how do emotions hang around inside your body? That's how they do it in me. It's like right here, I can barely breathe. I choke on the emotion when I don't accept the message it's come to give me. Around that same time, these many years ago, a very wise man told me that there was no such thing as a make-feel. I said, what? He said, there's no such thing as a make-feel. He said, nobody, Hendree, can make you feel anything. He said, all your feelings come from within your actual body. So a feeling doesn't come off of Joyce and into me. I feel a certain way because it's coming from inside of me. He said, they are chosen responses, your feelings are, to the situation you're in. Now, I thought this was about the most absurd, frankly, stupid thing I've ever heard in my life. I thought he was dead wrong. And I thought, oh, Lord, here, I've got to be the teacher now to this wise old man. Because I said back to him, I said, but she makes me angry. And I said it to him angrily to drive home my point. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? And he smiled at me. Wise people, that's their tell. They just smile at you, especially when you're making a fool of yourself. He smiled at me, and he very patiently said, nope. They'll use really complex words like that with you too. Sometimes wise people, nope. He said, even if you don't consciously realize it, you are choosing your feelings. You're choosing anger as a response to his or her behavior. He continued, it may well be a perfectly warranted response to very bad behavior. And you can be angry. You should be angry. All you want, no problem. I'm just telling you, she ain't making you feel. She's not making you feel anger or anything else. The Apostle Paul is teaching us something like the same. He says, be angry. That's in the text. Be angry. No problem. You see injustice? Be angry. Choose anger. Someone steps on your toe or kicks your dog? Be angry. Those are natural responses arising within your body to bad circumstances. But my man gets to meddling here, because at that point, we're all with him right there. Oh, finally, I can be. But he says, here's a trick. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. Now he's teaching us how to live, y'all. See, that means receive the message your anger has come to give you and let it go. Choose to give your anger to God. And what you'll find, more often than not, is that a miracle will happen. The miracle is that God will soften your heart. Give your anger willingly. Make a choice to give your anger to God. And God will make you tender-hearted. Now, there's some good news about anger. Now, this is going to hurt a lot of y'all. And in fact, I'm not trying to get into the fight that you're in with whomever. I'm just saying, I don't even know what y'all are into, okay? Here's the deal. The good news about anger is that do not quote me later today to whomever you're fighting with. The good news about anger is that a person is frequently not angry about the thing they say they are angry about. Y'all didn't follow that. The good news about anger is I am hardly ever angry about what I'm saying I'm angry about. All right. Here's what I mean. Right at about 10 years ago, I met a man and became friends with this fellow whose anger got the best of him, the absolute best of him, one day at work. You ever lost your cool at work? Don't raise your hands. You ever lost your, it's real. So this man, how I got to know this guy, and this is going to sound very pious and churchy. I'm actually not all that pious and churchy, but it's just the truth. I got to know this guy because we read the mystics together. We were both interested in contemplation and the Christian mystics, and we were in a group and we were reading the mystics together. This is 10, 12 years ago. We're both working, again, this is the only way I know to put it. We were both working on adopting, meditation, silent prayer practices in our lives. So what we were doing was we were cultivating a reservoir of silence inside our actual bodies, from which, that silent place within, you know what I'm talking about? From which we could proceed into our daily lives. That's how I met this guy. It's what we were into, you know? Okay, so he's at work. He tells me this story. He's got this big job. He's an architect, and he's got this big job and this big presentation to make. And the day before the big presentation he was to give, my friend went to bed unsettled, and he told me a little bit angry. And he didn't know why he felt the way he did, unsettled and angry. He chalked it up to being anxious about his presentation. So the next day he gets up and he goes to work, and he and a group of 6 co-workers gather in their conference room in their office space, and he starts in on the presentation of this big project that he's been working on for months. And about halfway through his presentation, he can see very clearly that his co-workers are not only not paying attention to what he's saying in a close way, but by their questions and their comments, he can also tell, he's just sure of it in his little mind, that they've been actively undermining the work that he had been hard at for 3 full months. And when he realized that they weren't paying attention, that they'd been working against them, or at least that's what he thought, he totally lost his cool. Anybody ever lose their... Yeah. I'm not going to take you through everything that he said, because we're in church and there's kids here. It was bad. He lost it with these people in that conference room. What I remember most clearly, and why I remember this story, is that at the end of chewing all of his coworkers out, he called the whole group of them a brood of vipers. That's what he said. Can you imagine, like, go to work tomorrow, He called all his coworkers a brood of vipers. He was still embarrassed about it when he told me the story a few years after it happened. After he finished his tirade, the whole room was silent. He was breathless. He said, Hendree, I immediately regretted every single word that came out of my mouth. He sat down heavily in his chair. He closed his eyes. He put his head in his hands. And nobody said a word. A beat, another beat. My friend opened his eyes, took his hands away from his face, and looked at his watch. Who knows why? He looked at his watch, and what caught his eye on his wristwatch was the date, lit up in little digital characters. And the date said 12/15. It was December 15th. And in a humiliating instant, my friend realized what had happened. December 15th was the anniversary of his father's death. And his father had been a hard and a cold man. He was not abusive per se, but he was also not accessible. For some reason, my friend never understood. His father would not say, I love you, to anyone in his family. And his father left the family unceremoniously when my friend was a teenager, and then he died not long after, away from the family when my friend was a young adult. And my friend, he told me, loved his father with all his heart, and he always hoped that they could reconcile, that they'd get another chance at their relationship. And so my friend, on the anniversary of his father's death, was at once mad at his dad, just angry, 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 and he missed him. Oh, he missed him with all his broken heart. He told me this, and I said, God, what did you do? And he said, Hendree, I don't know if you'll understand what I'm about to say. But the best I can explain it is in this way. He said, having immediately realized what I'd done and why, having received the message that my anger came to relay to me, I just went out on a limb. And I said, God, I give you this burning, terrible anger. He said, I just released the anger in that moment. And then he said, and then I dove down. He said, I don't know, this might sound too hairy-fairy to you, but he said, after that I just dove down into the depth of silence that is pooled within my own heart. And when I got there, I drank deeply. And then, knowing I couldn't stay there, I surfaced. And I looked at all my colleagues, and I said the only thing there was to say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm not angry at you, he said. You're not a brood of vipers, he said. Oh, God. Then he said this. This is so true. I mean, this is the truest thing. This is true, y'all. This is why I remember the story so well. Then he said to all these people, his colleagues, he said, you're all just chunks of God. He said, you're not a brood of vipers. You're chunks of God. And you don't deserve to be talked to like I have talked to you just now. Then he said, my parents didn't raise me to talk to other people with such anger and such hostility. He said, the truth is this. He said, today is the anniversary of my father's death. He said, well, we're this far in. I'll tell you the truth. Beyond that, I miss him terribly. And to be very frank with you, I'm mad as hell at him too. And I don't know what to do. And I'm so sorry that I put all of that on you. And the room was silent. And then a man at the end of this long conference, can y'all see this in your minds? A man at the end of this long conference table, he spoke. And he said to my friend and to the room, "It's okay." He said, "It's okay. I forgive you." And then one by one, each person at that long table said the exact same words. "It's okay. I forgive you." Then the man who started that off, the one who spoke up first, smiled. He smiled at my buddy. He said to him, "Chunks of God, huh?" He said, "I like that. We're all just chunks of God. And brood of vipers, where do you go to church?" That's what he said. And you know what everybody in that room did? They did exactly what y'all just did. They laughed. Because see, a miracle had happened. You can't make your heart tender. It's not going to come under your own muscularity. You can't figure it out. You can't study hard enough to get a tender heart. Most frequently through difficulty, God softens your heart. God gives you a tender heart. And my friend's anger, isn't this amazing? This didn't happen in church, y'all. It didn't happen in Sunday school. This happened out in the streets. It happened in a conference room at a big firm. What happened is a miracle. My friend's anger, his awareness, his confession, his apology, his realization, and his release created the perfect condition for the miracle, for God to soften every heart in the room. And each one became, as the scripture says, tender-hearted and forgiving. And for just a moment, in that conference room on that December morning, each one flickered like a living flame of love, transfigured and resplendent, the Christ shining with and within them. Be angry. Be angry. But don't let the sun go down on your anger. Instead, let your anger set the scene for the love of Jesus to come down and heal your broken heart. Heal our broken, tender hearts. Amen.